What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Countdown to Scream 2023, a very exciting edition of the show because this is officially the last video both of us will record before having seen the movie.
I know. So many unanswered questions about to be answered. But yeah, we're flying blind. Well, not completely blind today, right? We've got a bit of information up our sleeves as we go into this.
We got a little information. I should probably warn people that this video is likely going to go live after I've published my first social media reaction to the movie. So if you're confused, this is being recorded on Friday before I see the movie and then before both of us see the movie very, very soon after. I don't
Yes,
know
it
what I'm
depends on
allowed
how
to
quickly
say.
we can get this up, but it's
Yeah.
I don't do anything. But
I
yeah.
don't know what I'm allowed to say ever, Joel.
Who knows? Who knows? But
I
watch our Twitter feeds at all times because we will be reacting to this movie. Perry before I do, but yeah, I'll be reacting to it at some point.
So what we wanted to do for our final video before seeing the film is to do a whole bunch of last predictions. So we're going to start with where the movies start. The opening scene. Joel, do you have a hot take on the opening scene? Are we going to go back the traditional route, or are they going to try to kind of subvert our expectations like they did with 5 again?
Well, it's interesting because I think from the trailer and I think from most people's assumption, given how much or how little we've seen of her, and also her sort of status, I guess, as one of the bigger names-ish, at least in the horror landscape, people are expecting the opening scene to potentially focus on Samara Weaving and what looks like a sort of alleyway situation, maybe post-movie, post-Broadway show situation. I do have a slightly spicy take, which could be again disproved in a few hours because and by the time this video comes out. But I think what's going to, I don't know, this is my wild thing. The opening scene is the Gale scene from the trailer. But
Oh,
so we're talking subversion of expectations, and that a returning main character is the center of the opening scene, which we've sort of seen once in Scream 3, although
yeah.
Cotton was not quite Gale. And I think again, because these filmmakers, Radio Silence, are very about the version of expectations. I'll talk about that and a few other things that I've been thinking about. I wrote notes today, Perry. Can you tell? I'm just sidelined them. But I think it would be interesting in the same way that they subverted us with the victim not dying and see in the episode, their first take on Scream. I think the Ghostface will die and be revealed in the opening scene. And if this is indeed cult of Ghostface situations, that would be a very interesting way of doing it. That the movie starts with the killer identity, but this killer may be one of many.
That's a really good idea. You should write Scream movies, Joel.
I bloody well should. Kevin Williamson,
Yeah.
Paramount, Eyeglass. You've got my details. The Venmo's the same.
All right. So I'm like a little obsessed with that idea you laid out. Okay, so I'm looking at my production notes, and
It does have the advantage of production notes. I will say that. I do not see them.
but like the determination is I can say anything that's in the production notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just in case someone out there, like, you shouldn't be watching this show if you don't wanna know anything about the movie, because we talk about everything you see in the trailer, we talk about theories, and I'm gonna talk about the material that I was given to give me background information to conduct my interview. So it's not spoilers because it was provided by the studio.
But
So
do you actually know what the opening scene is?
no, but I
Okay.
have some sort of, story guess based on
Mm-hmm.
who Samara Weaving is playing, and, I also can't fully remember every little detail in terms of what was revealed in a trailer, what was revealed in a synopsis somewhere, but I'm about to say the role that she's listed as in my production notes. So again, this is the last warning. Just tune out if you don't want that kind of information, and don't
Bye.
watch this whole episode for that matter. So it says that Samara Weaving as Laura Crane, a professor at Blackmore University. And, if she is a professor at the university, given how we've seen the opening crime handled in previous films, it would make most sense for someone that's affiliated with the school that the kids are attending
Mm.
is the first to go. Then all of a sudden you see all of the press show up at school and harass the survivors for information.
Hmm.
I could see that playing out in the more traditional sense like we've seen before.
Don't disagree with you. I think that is the consensus theory. That people, again from the marketing materials, again from what you're seeing in the press materials, I think that makes a lot of sense. I am here to be a disruptor, Perry Nemiroff, so
Yeah.
I'm throwing out wild theories.
I do like your theory quite a bit because if this is and one can assume based on the trophy room that this truly is a cult of Ghostface type thing, and especially leaning into the idea of it being in Manhattan where and
At Halloween time, yeah.
they keep playing into this idea too in the marketing. I guess it must have been like a TikTok filter or something where they're
Mm,
making a filter where like you do something with your face and all of a sudden you appear as Ghostface with the idea that anybody could be behind the mask. And if that is indeed what the movie is heavily leaning into, that would be a really smart and, story forward way of kicking off the movie.
I just hear them over at Paramount right now, delaying release to rewrite and recut their opening, do some edits. Again, just call me. I have some other great ideas too. But
I wouldn't be
yeah,
surprised if it was one of these ideas though.
if I was a betting man, I would put my chips because I like money and I don't want to lose it on your theory. um, but as a fan, I kind of am excited by the prospect that they would do something quite daring that way.
I'm into your idea. I want twists and turns and the unexpected as long as it's justified in story and character and it
Hmm.
maintains, the pillars of the franchise. I just don't want them you wanna rock the foundation. You never wanna topple it.
Absolutely, that's right. And I do think, to your point about the opening scene and the possibilities of what it could be, that given that they did shake up our expectations on the opening scene, they may want to just return to like traditional, effective, dead as a doornail by the end, chase sequence, phone call, celebrity type person at the center of it.
It is possible, and, the idea of upping the intensity of every single kill or attack scene here, basically using what we've known before, but making it more, like, violent, vicious, brutal by keeping
Hmm.
it the same, but adding that level of intensity, that's when that level of intensity becomes a little more shocking, so it could actually
Yeah,
be valuable to follow a little more of a blueprint than they did with the previous opening kill.
right. But I
Right.
still would like to see them do Gale.
So wait, in
In my
your
theory, Gale survives.
In
Yes,
your opening theory, that's a little more out of left field. It's Gail, but Gail survives, and I mean, um,
the guy in the
I
background clearly
I
doesn't. I don't
have
think. But
I have an idea that might might make this not possible. Um, there's a still from the movie where it looks like Sam and Tara are being harassed by the media, and right dead smack in the middle of the media is Gail. So if that is the response to the opening kill, it is unlikely that Gail would have been at the center. I should change the word, not kill, but attack. But if Gail was indeed attacked in the opening, she probably wouldn't be there. She'd be elsewhere.
yes, and she would be the center of attention. So there is that, but creative editing.
You
We've seen
never
it
know.
before in these trailers.
Tis true. Tis true. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Here's a big
And all I will
question.
say is, when it comes to predictions, remember, called the killers from the trailer for Scream 5.
I fought so hard to believe in Amber. Fought so hard. I, every time I watch that damn movie, the two of them are so good. You know what surprises me,
So good.
Joel? So I recently posted my Ghostface killers ranked on TikTok. People hate Richie. I thought
Mm.
Richie was a pretty genius character, and I don't think Jack Quaid could have played that role more effectively than he did. I'm just surprised that there's so much Richie hate out there.
I am. I'm. I definitely. I don't hate anyone who's been involved in the Scream franchise. To be honest with you, Jenny McCarthy, I'll ride with you till the day I die, even.
Mhm.
But I do. He didn't whelm me in the same way that others. I wouldn't say he underwhelmed, but I certainly wasn't overwhelmed. I think he did his thing, and I think he
Alright.
was well cast for that particular role. But I think in the same way that we looked at Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, and then you look at as a pairing, and you see that one sort of like really shone through, and I think in a way, and I think that was the case with Mikey Madison and Mr. Quaid, that she just gets better and better every time you watch it, and is such a focus. This kind of segues to my theory on the killer. If we want to
Yeah,
skip
let's hear
our
it.
order a little bit,
So go to killer first and then who's gonna die?
yeah, is that okay? Or are we going
No,
too
go for
fast to
it.
the money?
No,
To the
because
money.
now I'm curious.
Okay, so again, I made some notes. It's supposed to be working today. I was working, but I made some notes. And I think there's a few things to consider. And correct me on factually if I'm wrong here.
Okay.
We've never had a returnee as the killer, right? Like a returning character who's been. So we've got that. And then thinking about so this sets us up to who might be the people that we should be suspecting the most. I have another theory. Well, I mean, if you look at the ones where it's been pairings, we've had one male, 3 male and female, right? In one
Okay.
solo. So I'm just like stats here. I'm playing out stats. So we're thinking, okay, no
Oh,
returnees.
that's what those notes meant.
Percentage wise, you're like, what's MM? Yeah.
I was like, "What's 1 MM and 3 MF?"
Yeah, that's my code. And then so
Hmm,
it's percentage wise probably a girl and a boy, man and woman, and then the other thing is I always think that the best cast or almost most well known or capable actors, particularly character capable actors, tend to be the ones who are the killers. Scream 3 maybe aside. And sometimes we don't know this because we don't know a lot of the faces that come into these franchises as well. But I think look at number 5 and you looked at an initial cast, and I would have said, oh, Mikey Madison is really an up and coming amazing actress. And Quaid is, this really he's just quirkiness and known and like talent, and to play crazy, I can see it. Capacity to play crazy. So that leads me to, if we're going down the standard route, follow the bouncing ball here, I think we could have Josh. I think we might be due for a male pairing, actually. And I think we could be going for Josh Segarra's character and Tony Revolori.
do you
Um,
wanna know who they're playing?
oh, yeah. You
Okay,
have notes. I
so
don't have notes. I'm flying
again,
blind, but
I've got
confidently.
I've got press notes. I would be asking them these questions in my non-spoiler interviews because they're in the production notes. I'm gonna say it. It says Tony Revolori as Jason Carvey, a classmate of Tara's, Josh Segarra as Danny Brackett, Sam's cute boy neighbor and new love interest. Does that change anything for you?
It absolutely does not. It basically affirms that those descriptions feel like Scream killer descriptions if I've ever heard them. New love interest for both, right? So there you go. Potentially, although it looks in a bit of a, was it the Super Bowl spot where Tara and uh, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son,
Oh,
goodness
Mason?
gracious, Mason Gooding Jr.'s character might be getting a bit, romantic. So
Yeah, I've seen that theory floating around out there.
But so I think, I don't know, when I put it, we're due for a male-male combination. I think Segarra and Tony are both really good comedic actors,
Hmm.
and could play crazy quite well, which leads me to think the finale could be set up quite well then. You give me those character descriptions. And then the other thing I'll say, though, if they want to buck conventions completely, and go with the first time they've got a returnee and a first solo female killer, which again doesn't really seem to be the case with what I'm looking in terms of multiple killers in this thing. I think we could get Kirby or Mindy.
Okay.
I've laid
Okay.
it all out. I've spoken too much. What do you think?
I have so many follow-ups. The first thing I wanna tell you is that when I went to the Scream 6 experience in LA, Tony
Hmm.
Revolori was there, and I must have said to his face probably about 10 times during our conversation, "You dead. You dead. You're gonna die in this movie. You dead." He also I had a whole, back and forth with Matt and Amelia about this. He was, saying that he hasn't seen the Scream movies and he doesn't know anything. And I'm like,
Oh,
I literally my entire conversation with him was, "Are you fucking with me? Are you lying to me? Because 'Cause I'm gullible and I'll believe you, and also, you dead, you dead." And it was just back and forth the entire time. But I am of the belief that he is going to die in this movie,
I mean, sure, as the killer.
not
No.
as the killer. Not as the killer.
I mean,
Not
he
as the
would. He
killer.
does also. They also do, occasionally have the really funny person cast for a funny death, or not a funny death, but like, I can see him delivering a sort of like one-liner as he's getting stabbed kind of
Probably.
situation.
I could see
Um,
that as well.
who do you have? What's your theory on the killers? Because I've given multiple and in too much detail.
Well, one other thing, and I'm jumping ahead on your notes that is in my mind is you wrote, sorry to step on your theories here,
How
but
dare you? Mm.
Dermot Mulroney playing Gail's love interest in the movie. I have many feelings about that. First, I am sensitive and I don't like it because this movie apparently takes place very soon after the events of Scream 5, and Dewey
Hmm.
just passed, and Gail needs to chill the fuck out and grieve and respect the loss. So I don't know how I feel about that. But why I bring it up is because then my mind immediately went to the sequence that's heavily featured in all the trailers, where you see in the background Ghostface kind of like pull someone
Mm.
out of frame. Is like, is that him? If he doesn't die in that moment, that could mean maybe he's a killer. But on the other hand, then you have to wonder. And like, I love rewatching Scream movies and looking for these types of things. But you have to wonder with a moment like that where Gail, the only other person in the room, can't see what's happening. If he is indeed the killer, and that's a private moment
Would
between the
not need
two
to do that.
killers, that say, what would be the point in that? Like, you
No,
can't just do something like that for the sake of having a cool camera gag, for the audience watching the movie.
no, the logic is not there.
So
Um,
I'm veering away from him being a love interest, and also because there's another little detail in the notes if you want to hear it. All right, let
well,
me.
okay. There's a note in my doc that we're sharing that just says Dermot living dash new Gale love interest. I don't mean to imply necessarily that flourishing relationship will start in a hot and heavy sense in this film, but maybe that there might be a connection that starts to sort of, I don't know, be forged in the trials of whatever happens in this film. But
Well,
you have notes and
I
information rather
do,
than
I
my complete
do.
guesstimation. So
This
please.
this is this is important.
Mm.
So it says in the notes, Detective Wayne Bailey, which is his character, is a
Hmm.
small town cop in the big city trying to help solve the Ghostface murders and protect his daughter Quinn at all costs. I believe Quinn is oh my god, Liana Liberato's character.
Okay.
With franchise stalwart Officer Dewey Riley gone, Dermot Mulroney says his character picks up the mantle of the franchise's in over his head cop trying to help crack the case.
Okay. What we also haven't had is a father-daughter killer duo. That's all I'm saying.
There's no, I would be very, very surprised if like he is the killer or she is the killer, but the other is not also the killer.
Mm. Mm.
Maybe there's even more killers.
So
Maybe
one
it's
of them, yeah. Oh,
whoops.
whoops.
Whoops. Maybe I told you my ring light clamp is overused and it keeps falling. Um, I mean, that is another idea to entertain. We keep talking about Cult of Ghostface type stuff, and we're used to there being two killers minus one movie. What if a way to subvert expectations is to have more than two killers?
Hmm. Hmm. I think
And
it's
the
very
cult,
possible.
maybe for, okay, here is a real wild theory that I
Okay.
don't think is actually true, but it just popped in my mind and it's interesting. What if Dermot Mulroney is kind of like the leader and the cult is all the new students that are core? That's another thing it says in the notes. They call themselves the core four, or
Okay.
Mason's character dubs them the core four or some shit like that. But what if every other student they meet is like in on it?
Wow. I guess the only thing
Maybe a
about that is
stretch.
then there's not many young bodies to get killed, right? Unless our core
Well,
four is impacted. But
that puts Samara at risk. It puts
mhm.
Hayden, Kirby at
Yes,
risk.
They can't. Well, who's gonna? Do you have a theory about the murderers? Because I feel like I've given mine, and I don't know if you've directly said yours before we start talking about who lives, who dies.
I have a million different theories about the killers. It feels to me like Scream 5 all over again, where I've come up with some sort of narrative for literally everybody to be the killer at this point.
Okay.
Except except our main group. Like, I don't think, for example, Jasmine Savoy Brown's character Mindy is gonna wind up being
Mm,
the killer. I don't think that's gonna be some sort of like, "We're turning the tables on you. Haha, see what we
yeah.
did there." Even though I guess there's something to be said that, for now I'm going down another path that I haven't really thought through, but it is kind of interesting. The idea that maybe there was a third killer in Scream 5
Yes.
who kept their identity a secret until round 2, let's say, as like a
I
backup plan, like a plan B.
I thought that was a possibility.
Mhm.
That would require in rewatching Scream 5 in your last round, did anything scream out like that?
No,
The only
because I
thing I
think
think is she's not really injured very badly and it happens off screen and like a lot of her situation is sort of shunted, I think, to the side
wait, did you
after.
just say Tara?
No. I mean, Mindy. I
Oh,
think there
no.
is an yeah.
I don't know, cause like, Mindy also has, like, private moments, like reenacting the Randy moment, like, why that wouldn't make any
Yeah.
sense for that to be there,
No.
and also, when the realization of what is happening is in front of her face, like, that look on her face is, like, pure human, like,
Yes.
real shock. I don't think you could go back and read that scene any other way.
No. So
Alright,
is there a theory that you're favoring though?
I'm wiping that one off the table. I guess not, honestly. There's nothing I'm favoring. I'm interested in seeing how Sam's evolution might cross the line, not necessarily turning her into a killer, but I do think this is kind of, the middle part of her arc where she knew about her Billy connection before, but knowing about a connection like that and acting on it and actually changing
Mm,
someone's life, even though that person was evil, is something completely different. And I see a storyline where it unleashes something where, like, maybe Sam does do something in Scream 6 that, like, could kind of be justifiable, but is also a little killer-ish, and it winds up,
mhm.
creating some sort of gray area in what the Ghostface killers in this movie are really responsible for versus what Sam has done. You know what I mean? And
Yes. I
that's
feel
and
like
that's also why she's featured maybe on that subway poster in the way that she is. I don't know.
potentially. I do feel the whatchamacalls it, the I'm getting Juno from the Descent vibes
Oh,
here.
okay.
Is there
I
a
hear you.
situation
I
that
hear
forces
you.
her to yeah.
Well, I mean that. Like, the other thing that goes against that, okay, I have another idea here.
Mhm,
So, a lot of my production notes focus on, and this is something that I've heard in Jenna Ortega's interviews in particular, like, months ago when she was promoting Wednesday, but there's this idea that Sam and Tara are reacting completely differently
mhm.
to the killings in Scream 5. Like, Tara wants to, like, not really talk about it and deal with it, whereas, Sam wants to hover and really make sure everyone's okay type thing. May Maybe Sam crossing the line is to protect her sister, but it might be too much, and that's her inner Billy coming out
Yeah,
to an extent that it shouldn't.
definitely can see that happening. Speaking of Tara, she's on my die list.
I've
Who's gonna die? Who's gonna die?
I've seen it a lot out there, and listen, the business part of my brain can somewhat justify the idea that Jenna Ortega is too big a star, she's too expensive, she's too busy to do another movie, so you kill her off.
Mhm,
And really, if they're putting Sam down a path, and I could see this happening, where this is the middle point where she's teetering back and forth
mm,
between, being good and also succumbing to the influence of her father. If Tara dies, that could set her on a path where the main character of Scream 7 is the killer, and, like, I don't know how much I'm rooting for that storyline, but there's could be something interesting in it.
I do think it's a challenging one because I remember having the conversation with you prior to Scream 5 and talking about whether they could kill one of the, I don't know, they've got a core four now, but the big three. And obviously, they went ahead and did it. And that's not a spoiler because if you're watching this, you're a fool if you haven't seen Scream 5. But
You're
sorry, we don't call anyone a fool, but rewind. But I think, and we were discussing whether the film could handle the emotional weight of a moment like that. And I think part of us sort of felt no. We were like, that would just, it's very hard. It could potentially throw the film off kilter to have that level of death. And I think they handle it so well
yeah.
in Scream 5, but there was a concern going in. And so when I do think, as much as I do think that Tara, for business reasons, and I just think for shock factor, and I think they can pull it off, isn't going to make it out of this alive. And if she does, she's moving somewhere where she doesn't get involved in Scream 7, I'm telling you that. But I also worry about the emotional weight of killing her because she is, I think, she has become the center point of the first film. And it's certainly the emotional center point. And so much weight is given to her. Her face is just like this luminous thing that brought us in. Now we come weighted with Jenna Ortega, the absolute beloved celebrity, which from a business point of view also brings in an added rooting for you weight. So can the film, as a narrative, handle a death of that character who brings both the fandom, love, and appreciation of the externalities of the film, but also the inbuilt emotional investment that we've had over 5 and presumably a long stretch of 6.
Even with what I had just laid out before you said that, I don't think that's the path that they're going down. I think it's the opposite where they do see the value in her star power more so than looking at how busy she is and saying like, let's just like end it here. I also do think that a lot of the themes and the character arcs in this movie are going to be connected to that sister relationship.
Yes.
Like, I think that's too much a core of this, potential trilogy of movies that we're getting for them to end either of their lives here, which makes me more nervous for maybe Chad and Mindy. And I don't want to lose either of them. But if I'm going to predict one of the twins getting killed off here, I'm going to lean towards Chad, especially if the romance between Tara and Chad is a real thing that starts to happen, because as we see in Scream 2, when someone gets too close to one of the key players here, their life is at risk. And if I'll tell you, in that movie, if I see the first sign of romance budding between the two of them, I will have made up in my mind that Chad will die before the end credits.
Okay, 2 things. I love all of that. Remind me to talk about siblings. I wonder whether this film will have meta connections to Scream 2, in a sense. And that makes me think about, of those twins, whether it is Chad that's most at risk, or what did Scream 2 do quite brilliantly in terms of usurping our expectations? It killed Randy, their expert. Does that mean if we were going to do a sort of meta connection that Mindy is more at risk than Chad? I don't know, because she's the one who commentates, etc. Just a thought. And the other thing is, if we're thinking about killers, family bonds are always important. And I think when I did my math before, it's like I was trying to work out exactly how many were connected to previous members. I think there's got to be a family connection somewhere. But I do think it's really interesting that at the center of this film in the core 4 are 2 sets of siblings and 1 set of sisters, right? And specifically, does that mean that as a sort of like counterbalance of some kind, or if this does become about sibling connection in some way, that the killers might be also share that relationship?
I have a
Maybe,
lot of
I don't
things.
know.
I have a lot of things that I'm thinking about now that you broke it down, because I've been saying all along that I think a lot of the story beats in this are gonna mirror Scream 2. In particular, one thing that I've been toying around, going back to our who the killers could be conversation, the idea that it could be a repeat where, there's an adult killer who's revealed to be related to a past killer who was killed in a movie, and then
Yeah.
somebody else is like the new student character that you don't expect,
Yeah.
like a Mickey, like that being a possibility. And as you were explaining that, I just I guess they wouldn't reveal this in the production notes, but I went back just to check the name of Samara Weaving's character, because it could be a situation where the opening kill characters could share a name with previous victims.
Well, there is a poster The Times Square poster. If you pull it up um, in the news ticker,
In the news ticker.
look at the news
Is
ticker.
it like the
Oh no, the one with the Broadway, the other Times Square poster with the knife going down.
not with Ghostface all Oh, I see, I see. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
What does the news ticker say again?
All right, I'm
Some
scrolling.
family attack or killed.
Hold on, I'm gonna zoom in. Well, it does say Mackenzie family found murdered in a series of stabbings in the city. Is that what you were
Hmm.
talking about?
I am now. I don't. Well, we might be getting to too much spoiler territory if your notes correlate with that in any way. If we're doing the thing, but yes, I do remember distinctly seeing the note Mackenzie family murdered.
I don't see anything that correlates with that. I mean,
Okay.
that's an interesting little detail to put in the trailer, to put in the,
Yeah.
poster. Like, why? And, like, those are the types of things that I'm convinced they wouldn't be just putting in the marketing campaign just to make fun little nods to past films unless they had an actual purpose.
What if? Hold up, Harry. Opening scene. We don't even know the actor. Like it's not in the production notes. It hasn't been in the trailer. And
It's the
some
Mackenzie
random
family.
person is, and maybe there's more kills at once, different parts of the city, and we're just like, we didn't. I don't know if like we people knew that Anna Paquin was in Scream 4 before that movie
It's
came out.
true.
Like, so I wonder if there. I mean, that to me is a strange thing that stood out to me, obviously, in that poster. Like the Mackenzies presumably have to die in this world, right? Because we have a poster with a news ticker.
And then that also begs the question, like, which Mackenzie family are we talking about?
Mm,
Just
exactly.
be like, Liv in the last movie, her last name was Mackenzie, and I don't think they ever did they ever actually solidify any relation between her and the Mackenzies that
In
Casey's
the opening
parents
scene,
urged her to run off to in the first film?
no, but I think we might be about to draw some lines. Is all I'm saying. I think there's.
That
It's
is
very
such a
interesting.
really weird name to feature in the poster if the
Hi, Perry.
what what is this? What is this? Just stay fucking put. Just stay put.
Yeah.
I can't even
That
blame
said,
Malcolm. Malcolm's right here.
that poster could also just be pure fantasy. Like, is there no like
Mm.
is Stab the musical really a thing? Like,
Stab the musical is probably a thing. In their reality, there is no doubt in my mind that someone out there would produce a Stab the musical.
oh my god,
I
is
I think
the
everything
lair
is real.
is the lair basically like a costume display tie-in to Stab the musical?
Wait, what do you mean?
The vault or the what are we calling it? The
Like those costumes are the costumes from the musical?
I don't know, from the musical, or is it
I
like
don't
it could be filmed or a tie-in activation to do like to promote the music. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. I'm
I
like,
don't think so. I got the impre and, like, I'm basing some of
mm,
this off of having gone to the Scream experience, where
yeah,
apparently a lot of the props in the recreated trophy room came from the set of the film, but that to me looked like the real deal stuff, like someone who idolized Ghostface from
okay.
previous films, or in their reality at least, collected the legit thing and made a shrine.
The shrine. Sorry. Yes, I keep. I'm like vault,
I
lair,
Well,
shrine.
they keep, going back and forth between calling it a trophy room and calling it a shrine, so I keep
Mm,
using the terms interchangeably for whatever that's worth.
okay. Any other thoughts on who's going to die? I mean, a lot of the young
I am
people.
ex
I'll say that.
I am extremely concerned about Gail, and I don't listen, I have faith in these filmmakers. They made a great Scream 5, and I am willing to believe that they could justify just about anything, but before having seen the movie, that's emotional weight that I don't think Scream 6 can handle. The idea of us having lost Dewey in Scream 5 and then immediately after killing Gail. I think that's like a 1-2 punch you just can't do. But then that to me signals that maybe another legacy character could die. And it seems absurd to me to bring Kirby back for one damn film and then she's going to die.
Absurd. I don't think they. I think Gail's safe. Um, I think Gail. I think Courtney Cox, the actress, is really attached to this franchise, and
I
in
like
a
that.
no questions asked kind of way. Like she's in. She understands the career, what it does for her. I think, particularly because we don't have Sydney in this film, we do not have something that would counterbalance Gail dying. I also don't think you can narratively have Gail die if you don't have Sydney in the film to actually experience it. Which
That
from a,
I wouldn't like that, but
mm,
and I don't want this to happen, but just to throw out the other possibility is that if Gale dies, it warrants Sydney returning for Scream 7.
that is true, but I my business brain says I don't know whether they've got that deal stitched up in a
Yeah.
way that they could narratively prepare for that in that way. But yes, I do agree that if Gale died very towards the end of this film, that does build the path. But I just think, from a fan point of view, to kill your one legacy returning character, and when I say
Do
legacy, I'm
it.
talking about core three, that would be really,
Yeah.
really challenging.
It's really impressive how sensitive I am to the conversation about just about any returning character dying at this point. It just speaks to how successfully, in particular, Scream 4 and 5 introduced characters that we've only seen in one film, and yet I'm already, like, incredibly attached to them.
I feel there's part of me that definitely feels if they did a Gale dying and a Kirby dying, they're basically repeating what they did with Deputy Judy and Dewey. It's like old returning legacy, like legend character dying, and also like Scream 4
Yeah.
character dying that we brought back and was quite a nice surprise for you. And I don't want to see those tricks pulled again because my little heart can't help it. Especially if you're going like a brutal ghost face, I do not want to see. If Gail dies, fine. Do not brutalize her. Not fine,
Mhm.
actually. I'd be very upset. But I
No,
do
yeah,
not want.
very
I do
upset.
not want. I do not want. Like I love gory movies. I love these movies when they go hard. I don't need to see that with Gail. I'm like, you
You
can't do that
know
to me.
you know what Kirby is in the movie, right? Because this is also something that's in the press notes, and I feel like it's been somewhat revealed via an image and also a soundbite of hers from the trailer.
She's a wig bottle.
I'm I'm gonna talk to her, and I'm 100% going to ask about the evolution of Kirby's style. I think that was a signature element of the character, and I'm interested to hear about how that changed and why. She is an FBI agent investigating the Ghostface murders.
I am an FBI agent. I love it. I do like that. She does. Yeah, she does give like leather jacket FBI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That fits the new look quite well. I find it interesting that we'll have an FBI agent in the movie and a small town cop. Like, that's just a
Right.
dynamic that we haven't quite se like, we've seen pairs of cops many a times before, but that is something different. And again,
It
it makes me suspicious of Dermot's
Dermot.
character.
Anyone who's new from
Forgot
out
his
of
name already.
town, definitely suspicious. Also, it could give you Debbie Salt versus Gail Weathers kind of vibes. Like, I'm an FBI agent, you Nat. Stop trying to get into my investigation, kind of thing. He might be like a little bit amateurish, annoying around the periphery until he reveals himself to be Mikey Madison's father or something as well.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, that's
oh
clearly
my
another
god!
idea I've been entertaining quite a bit.
So she's the sister and he's the father of Amber, potentially. No? We'll see. You've got
I
notes. I'm just throwing anything out there at this point.
I mean, I'll guess no on that because if she is the sister, then there would have had to have been some sort of, like,
Yes, good point.
recognition moment
Yeah, no,
versus
stupid.
let's say I mean, even that's something that many have called into question about Debbie Salt, is that nobody who ever knew Billy Loomis walking around that campus ever caught her at a scene where there were a lot of reporters and ever
Mm,
said, "Huh, is that Billy's mom?"
doesn't she reference her
They
good work?
they say that she lost a certain amount of weight and she changed her style, but it's like with how quick Sydney is to recognize her, one could assume that, a Randy or somebody else more familiar with the original Woodsboro
Hmm.
Kills would have recognized her, but
So what you're saying is there's precedent for my crazy theory.
I mean, a little bit. I am kind of
Also,
saying that.
if they were Richie's father and sister, then it negates it all, right? Because I mean, Sam presumably, but we don't know that she met his parents, and he was from a different town, right? So they didn't really know him.
Here's one thing we haven't discussed. Where the fuck is Christine? Where is she? Is she coming in this movie? Are we not going to meet her until movie 7?
Oh, Mama Christine.
Yeah.
She's at a count. She's at a group meeting,
Is
isn't she?
she but is she a potential killer? Could she show up and be like fuck my lineage, I got to wipe the slate clean or something?
I mean, that would be quite a motive.
I don't
But
know.
yeah, no, I mean, like, yes, that's why we don't have someone cast as her. We don't have, and you and I were convinced, I think, from the outset,
Yeah.
as soon as this film was announced, we're like, oh, well, we're going to get Mama. And I'm like, I think we even like fan casted her at some point.
It
Um,
would mirror family relation in Scream 3 if mom wanted to kill her
yeah.
daughter that she had with a serial killer, something along the lines of a half brother wanting to kill his half sister.
The other thing we have to think about is you know, what is the meta commentary sort of thread that is going to be one of the killers or both of the killers' motivations,
I
because that, like, what is like fandom, toxic fandom, is that one? What is it about now?
I think it's still leaning into toxic fandom, and I think it's gonna directly get at the idea of they thought that they thought that they saved the day and killed the problem at its root by killing Richie and Amber, but in reality, that Reddit group or whatever it was that they were a part of is widespread and there's no outrunning it. That's what I think this idea is gonna be, and that's part of the reason why I have this feeling that there's gonna be more than 2 killers.
Yeah, I think that could be it. I think also there could be like yeah, it's not just the literal sort of idea that the toxic fandom, and there are many more in the world, but like society at large kind of being a little bit toxic in its appreciation of art and culture, and maybe even the commercialization of it. If we're looking at things like Stab the Musical and just the masks
Yeah.
everywhere and the Halloweenification
Well, I
of
think it's
people's
it's
actual lives.
it's gonna
You
be
know,
what you just said, where, like, maybe in terms of, like, main killers, there are more than the more traditional 2, and we get, like, 3, if not 4,
but
but
aren't we
then
all the
but
killers?
then it's also gonna add to, well, are we all the killers if we watch someone get murdered by Ghostface in
Yeah.
public in New York City and you do nothing about it? I think it's gonna tap into there being more Ghostface killers, what it means to witness something and do nothing about it, and also what it means for people overall to kind of fuel those killings by paying to watch something like a Stab the Musical.
Which would also be a wonderful tie back, and then we probably need to move on to the next thing because we are going deep to the opening of dun dun
Oh
dun
god. I
Scream
don't even
2.
where are we at right now?
My notes were so effective. But that would be a lovely tie back to Scream 2's
Yeah.
opening scene, where it's like we are the audience guiltily watching as Maureen is screaming on that thing. And so thematically, if we're thinking we're getting beats and themes that tie to Scream 2,
Samara Weaving's character goes to Stab the Musical and dies.
that's kind of that. Look, if I said chips on the table, that would be my bet. Because the one little flash from her, I'm like, she's too well dressed not to be going to a Broadway show. That's the kind of alley you're in after you go to one of those shows, especially if you're trying to get away from the crowds. She's turned her phone on because she's had her phone off. There's messages. I think it's wonderful. She's got a Stab the Musical cup where she bought like a $30 glass of Chardonnay, probably 35. So she's keeping that cup.
Maybe
Um,
they're even giving those impossible to get Ghostface popcorn holders.
they could be. You're not munching on popcorn in the
Well,
musical
hon
theater,
honest
Perry.
honestly, maybe that tie-in is actually featured in the movie and is
That
really
would be
being used in the theater.
honestly, we should be writing this shit, Perry. We should be writing this shit.
Dude, we've literally spent almost half this movie's runtime coming up with ideas, some of these ideas are legit good.
Yeah,
I think
son.
so.
How dare you? Do we think there are going to be other returning characters?
Not
Chapter bullet point. We're starting a new
not
discussion.
not Stu. Stu is dead. I hope Matt Donato hears this. Stu is dead. I'm not ruling out the possibility of a flashback because I think Sam's connection to Billy might justify something of the sorts. Stu is dead, dead, dead. Dead, 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 dead. So no, not Stu.
Stu is dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm skipping again.
Anyone else? I agree with you. Not Stu. That is stupid.
Who
But
who's even left to return? Joel the cameraman?
I love him.
Mark? Mark's not coming in without Sydney.
No, no, that's true. I'm trying to think survivors or tangential side characters. I mean, maybe we'll see Mindy and the mix, the twins' mother
I
again.
don't
She might
think
be coming to
so.
visit New York.
She posted something on Twitter that just and, like, this is very much me just, like, in trying to interpret her Twitter, tone of voice, but it made it feel to me like she was, like, as an actor, she was proud to see them go off and, like, do another
Okay,
movie, and she's not part plus, it, like, goes hand in hand with the idea of, like, kids going off to college and saying bye to the parents.
I have my dream returnees, and again, it would be a meta, wonderful little, not meta
Oh,
actually, just a
no.
literal callback to Scream 2.
Where are you going with this?
Hi. No, I really mean that.
Dude, don't.
Hi.
Don't
If
say
they
it.
could get Portia de Rossi and Rebecca Gayheart back,
I would lose my mind. I
I
would
would die.
lose my mind.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
I
Maybe
love
maybe they
that
haven't.
idea, Joel.
That's maybe they're the Mackenzies.
I want to
They're
see
not.
them pop up in this movie so badly
I would
now.
be I would be so happy
Like,
if they
even
did.
if they're just literally sitting in the audience of Stab the Musical, and it's not even a shot focusing on them. I just wanna see them in a frame, sitting
I would
together.
I would die. I feel like they're two characters that not many people talk about because they didn't really have much to do, but they made a huge impression.
They
I wonder
filled
about
out
I
the
want
world. They made the atmosphere feel real and layered and authentic. Not
and
authentic
I can
maybe,
like
but
see that I can see them working in a diner somewhere now or something. I don't know. I'm trying to work out where beautiful sort of sorority sisters go to live in their maybe 40s, 45s.
I do
Um,
I do feel like the 2 of them still live together somewhere.
they're like Romeo and Michelleing or
Yeah,
something.
no,
Oh my god!
they are the Romeo and Michelle of the Scream
No,
franchise.
Real Housewives of New York in the Stab universe. They have had cameos in the latest Stab movie because they've been riding the fame of having been associated with the second set of killers.
Oh, this is
Ah,
perfect, Joel.
again, Paramount, they're right
This
here. We're
that was
cheaper.
that
Guy
was
Basic is
too easy.
amazing, but we're cheaper.
You just gave them you handed them a perfect idea. Everyone trace it back to this episode and to Joel
Can we
because you
patent
need credit
everything that
when
we've
that
said in this
happens.
episode, please? Can we patent this, please? Because
Oh,
timestamp this because I need it for the court case.
I adore that idea.
Okay. Any other returning characters?
I don't think there's anyone left to return, unless we wanna
Sydney's
start
dad?
opening it up to people related to people who have died.
Sydney's dad?
I don't see that
There's no
happening
reason.
If Sydney's not returning, no.
No. Um, and I think that's it, right? Did the detective not the deputy sheriff in Scream 5 survive? The one who was
No,
sort of
he dies
supposed
in
to
the
be watching?
hospital. He dies
He
in the
does die in the
hospital.
hospital. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's him on the floor in the hospital.
I thought it was an older man in the hospital. I'm talking about the
Might have
young,
been.
sort of burly, handsome Asian man, really.
I know exactly who you're talking
Yeah,
about. Is he the one who dies in the hospital though, or is that someone else?
commenters are going to come at me. That's fine.
I guess he
I,
can't die in the hospital because he's at the crime scene and Sam gets
mm,
mad that he's not in the hospital, which gets Dewey and
mm.
Sam to the hospital. So I guess he's still alive.
I like him. He could come back anytime, as far as I'm
That'd be
concerned.
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we've done the returnees, and then we wanted to talk about Sam, and we kind of talked about Sam. But did
Yeah,
you want to?
we
Yeah. Anything
got into that a little bit.
else?
I'll just reiterate very briefly that I think this movie is going to, test her and see if she can control her inner Billy now that it's been unleashed via killing someone, or if she could keep shit in check. And I'll also add that if Tara dies, I think that's going to put her on a villainous path in Scream 7. Whereas if Tara survives, I think that's going to inspire Sam to keep things under control.
No arguments.
Yeah. I just said the right thing. I thought I just reversed the words for a
Mm.
minute. It's one
No,
of those days.
I think that's correct. I have nothing to add. I'm
Okay.
excited to see her journey. Very, very good. The marketing is definitely
Oh
leaning
my
into this,
god.
like in a really way that I think is too on the nose for it to possibly be as
Y
obvious as we think it is.
yeah.
Um, and then I just, in general, have a note to Hollywood. Like, I'm dark side, light side, Kylo, Ray. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm okay with what I trust these guys, but I'm also like, uh,
One other question:
not to bum people out.
is there anyone that we think is dead that might not be dead?
In Kirby fashion,
Yeah.
well, there's always Stu. No, I'm joking.
You guys.
Ta- Tatum could have survived that. No, I'm trying to think of more like off-camera sort of situations.
I don't think
Um,
so.
no, they confirmed that the two girls in Scream 4 died. Um, Scream 3. I have a dream, but narratively, it doesn't make sense because
Okay.
they've kind of addressed that she's died. But someone who could have potentially survived her wounds and was not shown like what I would call dead in a Scream style was Jennifer Jolie, I think.
Dude, I would pay all the money in the world to bring Parker Posey back to this franchise. I would give them everything, but I think she's dead. I don't know. That's
Do we remind me? Do we get the shot of her there and like blood coming out of her mouth or something,
yeah,
or is it
like
just yeah? Okay,
she falls out of the,
the
the
mirror. Yeah.
shot open mirror, and
Mm.
it looks like a dead shot to me, and then, like, Gail gives that guttural scream that says to me, like, she
Mm.
has died.
Yes, that is the sign. And I think Joel the cameraman is. I mean, there's no real reason why he would be back, I suppose, unless he's suddenly like wound up on the set of Sunrise or whatever it is. Good Morning New York, or
Yeah.
as a cameraman.
I feel like Gail owes him. She owes him
She
a
does.
job, a safe job.
She does. Although he is also, as his character said, like doesn't want to get anywhere near these people. He's like,
But
bye.
he comes back at the end, and then she blows him off. It's to get in the ambulance with Dewey, but
Mm.
he's like, "Legit, like, I'm here, let's do it," and then she leaves.
You know who could definitely be returning? Olivia from Scream 4. I'm joking.
Yeah.
There's a chance. There's a
She
chance.
she's, like, the deadest of them all.
Yeah.
Alright. Do you wanna wind this down? And then, like, the next time we come back, it'll be to talk it'll be to talk, like, legit spoilers that we know with certainty happened.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk about it with you, Perry. I cannot wait. Two more things. The latest box office prediction for Scream 6 is apparently, I don't know how they do these things, even though I used to work at Fandango. 37 million, they're saying, is what is the buzz, and it could be the highest. That would be the highest of the
Yeah.
franchise. I can see that. I think it does depend on reception. I do think, like, the next question I was going to ask is how does it score on Rotten Tomatoes? But I do think
I
that
feel
can impact things if
I
it's like,
feel
if,
good. I feel good about this movie. I
mm,
feel good
I mean,
about
I do
this.
too.
And, like,
And you'll,
admittedly, I know as an obsessed fan, there's always a little bit of wishful thinking, but I don't know, I trust the filmmakers, I trust what they did in the last movie, and, like, I trust the little bits that they're telling us, like, I think they have really good ideas there and, like,
mm,
a lot of really exciting people involved too, and I don't know, I'm looking at so Scream was 76% on the tomato meter, certified fresh.
mhm.
I have a little bit of a hard time imagining a Scream movie earning an 80 from, all critics, from, let's say, the 200 plus people who wind up reviewing this movie because,
Yes.
I guess horror can be a little more divisive than other genres for the widest possible audience, but I don't know, I have this feeling it's
Very.
gonna be a little higher.
I'll give you some meta. I mean, okay, for those who don't know, I was the editor in chief of Rotten Tomatoes at a certain point. So I do know a bit. I do know a bit about this world. I believe the Scream movie that does have an 80 or 81 is Scream 2. So if we're talking about the
That's so
connections,
interesting.
we could see the slight increase
No
if the world is
way.
going meta. Yeah, it's 80 or 81, or
Wow. The original Scream has an 80. The
and Scream
Scream
2 is Scream 82 or 81.
um, The search feature did not organize them as I would have liked, so I'm gonna specifically search Scream 2. Now I must click movies. Scream 2 has an 80 and 82%. I am
Yeah,
absolutely shocked that I love both movies, but I am absolutely shocked that Scream 2 has a higher tomato meter score than Scream. And now it also just, like, pretty much refutes my previous argument that although
the time is
times
different.
are maybe a little different, and I feel like people can be a little more intense one way or the other in terms of their feelings about a movie.
I agree with that. One thing I would say contextually, though, is that at the time that Scream 2 and Scream were released and Scream 3, the bulk of those critics would have been more sort of like your tenured newspaper, television, magazine critics, potentially more traditional folks and less genre specific. Whereas as the tomato meter has evolved its parameters in terms of who is a qualified critic and count towards the tomato meter score, there's definitely been an expansion that has opened it to like self-publishers that meet a certain criteria, people who are doing the kind of thing that we do, but with a perspective and criticism sort of thing on YouTube, podcasts, which has brought in more like horror specific and fandom specific publications or publishers to that tomato meter. So I would say you maybe have, I'm sorry, we're going on. I'm getting in my feels and in my depth and my juices, but this is definitely, you could make the counter argument where the wider pool actually helps a film like this.
I
And
could
so
see that too.
you see a Megan get 94% on
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes. Whereas if Megan had been released in 1994, it may not necessarily have that same generosity or reception.
Fair enough. I just want all the positive reviews, all the big monies. I just
I know.
I want this movie to be everything I hoped for and then some.
I hope so as well. I do think again, we haven't seen it, but we'll know tonight whether, I'll tell you on Monday what I think the score will be after I see it. But I do think one of the critical dings that people will be looking at is the missingness of, or the empty hole of Nev.
Yeah.
I think there may be a certain critic or a certain critical perspective that looks at the impact that has on the film and the emotional weight. That in the midst of all this young flesh being torn spectacle might be missing for some. But again, this is all speculation as we're talking about spectacles. So
Not going to be speculation soon, though. It's time.
I hate you. You're seeing the movie before me.
It's time. I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. I should go because I should get ready to go.
Sweaty palms.
All right, let's do it.
You're
Joel,
tilting again, Perri.
so excited. I'll see you on the other side. It's an honor.
I'm so excited. It's an honor, and it'll be an honor to be at the premiere with you this week. So next week. So I'm so excited. I know. All right, Perri, what's happening?
All right, and we're out.